that we'd found outside, and nobody found them. When our moms worked on the farm, we would go and catch some oglums, and we'd put them where they'd be seen. Oh, how our moms would scream, then chase after us as we'd laugh hard and run away. But those days are gone now. The Queen's men came to town, wanted dolls for the crown, moved our work to the underground, and they took all our farmland down. What are all these things? Gears and belts and springs and machines we can't convey. Down production lines, sealing hats with twines, they take our life away. Now our kids run wild and free, and we're not even able to see them. We're always stuck below the earth. And what is it all worth to miss their lives for a little bit of extra pay? We don't even need it. Let's bring back the charm of those days on the farm. Once again under the sun, watching our kids laugh and have fun and play their tricks on us like we used to do. Bring back those days.
That there was one article that said they thought there were too many boss fights, but they didn't really complain about the overall difficulty.
Too many
I don't-
boss fights? Too
Yeah.
many boss fights?
No such
What?
thing, right?
Well, I mean, like, historically, I'm gonna be honest here. Metroid games have been lacking in boss fights, right? Like, you go back to the beginning, there's how many actual bosses are in the first? Yeah.
2 before the end.
Yeah, so there's like 3 bosses total.
Yeah.
Now, the last one is kind of like a multi-stage, but still, there's like 3 bosses total, right?
Mhm.
And then, like, as the series progresses, you're lucky if you get like 5 actual bosses in a game, and then there
Mhm.
might be like some mini things that are kind of like bosses. Like, I guess in 2, especially because how annoying they are, the way the Metroids were set up, you could kind of consider them like there's mini bosses scattered everywhere because they're annoying in the rooms. But there's not really like
Yeah.
a bunch of boss fights in that game.
Yeah, that's so. I don't know if you want me to get into it right away.
Yeah, no, you
But,
can. If you want me to introduce the show already, so you can just jump right into it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, welcome to the Vomitorium Weekday Show for the 8th of October, 2021. As always, I'm your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer, who is excited to talk about Metroid Dread, which you were streaming that earlier, right?
I was, yeah. I just wanted to say, welcome to Vomitorium, the Dark Souls of podcasts.
I wish we were the Dark Souls of podcasts. It would mean we were easy listening to people who are actually paying attention to what we're saying, and there's probably some dark horror themes that are interesting here and there. That actually would be a pretty good cast, and it would fit the title of Vomitorium pretty well.
Mm-hmm. And if you're watching us, on double speed and not really paying attention, you might get lost and
Oh, especially with how fast I could talk from time to time.
So yeah, Metroid Dread. I actually played for 3 hours last night just on my own, and I got pretty far. I got through. So here's the thing. I think it blurs the line. So like I was saying, there was at least one article that I read that was saying there are too many boss fights, but it really blurs the line between what is a boss fight. I mean, if you define basically anything that's not running through corridors, killing little piddly, flying creatures that take 2 or 3 hits and stuff like that, like anything other than that is a boss fight, then yeah, there's a ton of them. But they're not there. It's just a bunch of mini boss fights or mini challenges. I mean,
I would not consider the Emmys boss fights at all, which might be one of the things that they're thinking. They're probably considering them boss fights. It's like, one, you don't fight them really. Like you do get that Omega Cannon.
You eventually do.
But this is more like a sequence more than anything, right? Because it's an avoidance thing, combination of stealth and platforming.
Yeah. And then when you finally get the Omega Cannon, you do have to kill them, and you have to be a bit quick and strategic. So it's kind of another mini boss fight once you do get around to killing them. Because it's not as simple. Like the first one, you fire one shot and it's dead because it's the first one, and they're just kind of introducing the concept. As you go along, you have to kill them in more and more creative ways. So they sort of become little mini boss fights after you get the Omega Cannon. But in order to get the cannon, there's a boss fight, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, it's these cores that have like an eyeball that's staring at you, and they've got weapons they're shooting at you and different things coming at you from different angles, and you just kind of have to avoid, at least just the couple that I've done. You have to avoid the things coming at you and keep shooting that core until it breaks apart and dies. And then you get the Omega Cannon. So that could be considered sort of a boss fight.
Yeah. I mean, I'd even be fine with calling that a mini boss if there's a bunch of those too.
You're in one room. You got things shooting at you. You got to concentrate on one big thing in the middle. And that's, So, I mean, that happens, 6 or 7 times throughout the game. Because you got to get that Omega Cannon. I'm trying to think of what else might qualify. There's a couple of things. So, like, if you're familiar with Metroid, many of the upgrades are just like there's a statue holding a ball, and you shoot the ball and you collect it, and you got the upgrade. Some of the upgrades you have to defeat a mini boss to get it instead. Some of them come from the Emmys, actually, but some of them come from a mini boss, and They're more like the Metroids from Samus Returns. Again, you're in one room with one enemy, but it's not like some of them have multiple stages, but it's just a big enemy. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You just have to hit it a lot of times. So yeah, it's a mini boss, I guess you could say. But so far, what I would consider to be a true, real challenging boss fight, I've run across one so far, and I'm guessing there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 of them in the whole game, maybe 3. I don't know. Like we said,
because I'm going to be really upset if Kraid isn't a challenging boss fight.
Yeah, Kraid was the one, what I would call truly boss fight. It was a big challenge, and I was telling you off air. It took a lot of tries. I died many times, and it's frustrating a bit, but it was fair. It's the kind of challenging that you want to see in a game. You know, it's the controls are great. There's no problem with that. There's nothing cheap about it. In fact, what's funny, after you die, it says, like, one of the tips was, no attack is unavoidable. It's kind of like saying, get good.
Yeah.
You know, so it's trying to be encouraging, but it was kind of funny the way they worded it, where, you know, it gives you tips after you die. And it's like, you know, no attack is unavoidable. Watch your enemy, you know, watch for patterns and that sort of thing. And sure enough, there is a way to avoid every attack. And, you know, obviously you're not going to be able to avoid every attack, but
I wonder if games are good enough now, like if the way you can do the AI programming in a game, to where you could give tips that would use, like, I don't know, maybe they could detect how you died, so there was like an if-then statement, to where it would give you a cheeky tip based on how you died, just to kind of like rub it in your face even more.
Yeah. I've seen that before. I feel like to a limited extent. I don't remember what game I was thinking of. Maybe like Breath of the Wild, where like if you die because due to heat or something, it'll give you a hint about how to avoid heat and stuff like that.
Oh no, I don't want to give them a real hint. I just want to be like, did you know you cannot catch missiles with your face? Stuff like that. That's what I want to give them.
I swear I've seen something like that. I have to think of what game it was that says stuff like that. It does. I know I've seen that somewhere. And it was some action game where, does Dread have AI with pattern recognition? I mean, rudimentary. The enemies have a, you know, what you'd consider to be a standard pattern. Yeah. There's nothing, you know, particularly adaptive about it. You know, once you hit an enemy at certain times.
In Metroid is something that's not necessarily adaptive, just hard. Like, for example, the best adaptive part of the AA you'd want is something that's been around since, like, Pac-Man, right? The enemy's got a pattern, but this is supposed to be a tougher one. So if I jump over the enemy and move to the side, it doesn't just keep walking, it turns around and starts attacking me. Things like that. That's like the most adaptive you want the AI in a Metroid game to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I even found, I mean, to some degree, playing Super Metroid recently, there was an enemy, there's an enemy that's a space pirate that is all silver, and you can't hurt it until it jumps in a certain way. Yeah. And then it turns green, and you can hurt it temporarily. And I've noticed that, like, when I was fighting them, like, if you fought them from too far away, they wouldn't do it, and if you got too close, they wouldn't do it. Like, they would fight you in a certain way depending on how close or far away you were and what you were shooting at them and that sort of thing. So there's some reaction to the player.
But that's like a really old thing too. That's not like anything new. You've had stuff like that since, like you said, Super Nintendo and stuff. Like, you had to bait out sequences from characters.
Yeah. But in the same way, like the raid or the Kraid fight, depending on, you know, how you hit him. Well, there was some similarity to the Super Metroid one, Kraid, where you had to hit him in the face so that he'd open his mouth and roar at you, and then you have to shoot missiles in his mouth.
Yeah.
So it had that similar mechanic. It was throwing the claws at you that would tumble through the air. He had the things shooting out of his stomach that you could climb up on top of to get up to his head, and that sort of thing. So lots of similarities to the Super Metroid version. But like I said, it was challenging enough that I tried it, I don't know how many times, 4 or 5 times, and finally said, you know what? I'm not good enough. I need to go back and get some upgrades. And luckily, it lets you go back, and you can go back all the way to the beginning if you want. And I went and picked up all the upgrades I could find, and then I came back to challenge it again. And this time I still died a couple of times, but then I beat it. Yeah, I mean, it was noticeably easier after I had gone back and gotten a few upgrades. Still a challenge, but I managed to beat it. So it's one of those things where
not on the Switch yet. It might be soon, but not soon enough. We thought that they were going to do Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games next for the Nintendo Switch Online. Turns out they decided to do 64 and Genesis games of all things next. Go figure.
Yeah. Yeah, it is on Wii U. Or you can get it on the... Well, I think you can get it on 3DS, I believe.
I have it on 3DS through the Ambassador program.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think you can buy it on the eShop.
Oh, you can.
I think it was only available for ambassadors.
Yeah.
But you know, there's this great thing that I support all the time called piracy, and Game Boy Advance ROMs run flawlessly.
Yeah, I was debating whether to say that. So yeah, here's the thing is, and I've been watching a few people play. The streamers that I've been watching, some of them have had a hard time of it, and some have had an easy time, but none of them have been complaining. They've all been saying it's great. What I've noticed is some of the people chatting have been complaining about how hard it is, and I'm just like, just take it slow. Like, there's no reason to rush through it. Go and explore, find all the upgrades you can, and practice. And, some of the Emmy sequences are extremely tense and difficult, and I've died several times to the Emmys. But, then it starts you right outside the area, so it's not like, you have to backtrack a ton. You can just try again, and you just have to be a little bit patient. And so far, I've not found it unfair in any way. Eagle says the bosses seemed easy. Well, here's the thing. The one boss I think you saw me play, if you saw me play the one guy that was turning invisible, he was easy because A, I beat him once already last night. So I knew all of his patterns already. And B, he's meant to be. That was like the first mini boss, and it was meant to be very easy. It was like, it was a tutorial mini boss.
Are
basically.
You sure that Eagle's
like,
not just calling you bad?
He said it was easy.
He said it seemed easy.
Oh, well, what he means is I just made it look easy.
Oh, okay. No, you said you had to go back after Kraid. Like, maybe he thought Kraid was easy too, or did he not see that one?
No, because I haven't gotten there on my stream yet.
Oh, okay. That was what you did offline
No.
only. Okay.
Yeah. No, I think the one boss he saw was the one. It's like a scorpion that has like the tail that tries to get you, and then he turns invisible, and you have to look for the blinking light on his tail. It's very like, a practice boss. It was like, at certain times you can slide underneath him. Oh, I bet you didn't know you could slide under bosses. The blinking light on the tail was very obvious. Look for blinking lights and shoot them. And then there was, occasionally you could counter him. I did not. I don't think there is an easy mode. If there is, I didn't plan on it. But so yeah, that was a definitely sort of the first mini boss. Here's some cool things you can do, and we don't really want you to die. This is going to be pretty easy. But Kraid, oh my god. But once you figure it out, like there were certain things that you have to just jump over, certain things you have to jump away from, certain things you can shoot that will, like projectiles where you can shoot them and they'll turn into, missiles and things like that. I played on marsupial mode. So it's just learning the patterns. And it took probably a total of 6 or 7 tries. And I just kept at it. And I bought it. I beat him.
Why is there a cutscene for all the Emmys?
That's a good question. Probably because they all have different abilities.
Okay, so they want to show it off in the scene before you have to get hit by it?
Yes. Either they have different abilities or you have different abilities. Like, the third one, by the time you get to him, you have the, I forget what it's called, phantom, so the thing where you can turn invisible. So there's a brief cutscene where it comes up and it comes right up to you and it turns to Samus and she's already invisible. And so it's just kind of demonstrating that it can't see you.
They do that stuff in, this is just something Nintendo's been encouraging of their different departments recently. They do that in Luigi's Mansion 3 when you first show up in an area and there'll be like the ghosts that do something, then Luigi will react in a certain way in the cutscene, which will suggest what you should be doing in that area. Yeah,
exactly. And like the second Emmy, you don't have any new abilities, so what it's actually showing you in the initial cutscene is that the second.
I agree, though.
Yeah.
Rather than just start chasing you and then you find out when you feel safe.
Yeah. Well, the first one is just to introduce the concept. The second one shows that it can't get into tight areas. So, like, Samus, like, without any input from me, Samus, like, slides into a narrow area and it can't get through. So that's sort of what the second Emmy cutscene was to show. The third one, I think, shows off the Phantom Drive or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
The Phantom Cloak, I think it's called, as well as it shows when it disappears, it goes off into a narrow passageway. So it shows that the third one can go into narrow passageways. So you can't escape that way.
Well, I know what I would be adding to my Metroid mode I suggested earlier. So I think it was before we started, I said that there should have been a Metroid mode, which is like a harder difficulty that kind of just rewinds things back to like an older time. And the first thing I said was that it disables the map. There is no map. So now the second thing is no cutscenes letting you know how to interact with the Emmys. You just got to figure it out on your own when you get there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've played the game through once by the time
I'm talking, but like, what if you just wanted to have like that raw experience the very first time?
I don't know. And good luck.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to hear my one complaint?
Yes, definitely.
So far. My one complaint is that they assigned the goddamn Eon abilities, including the Phantom Cloak, to pushing in the R switch, whatever it's called.
Oh, like middle stick click.
Knob. Yeah, the stick click. Do you know what they assigned to the A button?
What?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
The A button. Nothing. I'm like, what the fuck, guys? On the 3DS, the A button does the Eon abilities. I was like, oh, that's what when I first started playing and the A button did nothing, I was like, well, that's going to be the Eon abilities, obviously. No, it's the R stick click. What? A button. It doesn't do anything else. At least not that I figured out.
Yeah. R3. Why?
Why R3? That's ridiculous. Unless it does something else later. Maybe it does the grappling hook or something. I don't know, grapple beam. But I'm like, the A button does nothing. Why do I have to click this stupid thing? I hate that.
I don't know why you would even need, like, you have 2 triggers in this one. On the 3DS, like, maybe if you had a new 3DS, you technically have 2 triggers. Mm-hmm. But On the 3DS, all games are basically designed around you only having one L and one R. This one, you've got two. You have an extra button you could put like the grappling hook or something on. You don't need it on A.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what the ZR trigger does? Nothing.
Yeah.
Also, nothing is on the ZR trigger. Have that trigger the Eon abilities. Something. Anything. Like, the other L does something. L aims, if you want to stop and just aim in any way. R, turns on your missiles. The ZL button lets you slide. ZR does not. But in fact, while I was playing earlier, I went and looked to see if I could change the controls, and you can't change them. I'm like,
yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm fine with buttons being assigned to L3 and R3, but they should be the last thing you assign buttons to, right? Like, if I'm playing a first-person shooter, which, God, I hate playing them with controllers, but if I have to play it with a controller, I'm fine with, like, sprint being put to, like, L3 or even crouch being put to R3 because all the other buttons are being taken up, but...
Yeah.
Like, God, it'd be the last things. Also, technically, Samus kinda is a Metroid. She's got Metroid DNA in her immune system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, that was an interesting change that they made from the previous one. So in Metroid Fusion, they established that because she has the Metroid vaccine in her, she's susceptible to cold. Because the Metroids are susceptible to cold. But once she gets the Varia suit, she can go into hot areas or cold areas. In this one, the Varia suit only protects you from hot. So I'm guessing I'm going to have to get the gravity suit to go into cold areas. So.
But he was asking, like, if all the Metroids are dead, why isn't it called Samus Aran? Well, I mean, one, it is just the name of a franchise as well. But it's also on the legacy of the Metroids. But like I said, Samus technically has Metroid DNA in her immune system. Like,
yeah,
she needed to
Samus
get rid of
is
the
the
X-Parasite. Yeah.
She basically becomes the Metroid, because the whole purpose of the Metroids was to eliminate the X-Parasites, and now that's her purpose. The X-Parasite clone. So Eagle's theory is that in Fusion, when she wakes up, she is actually the X-Parasite clone, and the one wandering around in her suit is the real Samus. That's Eagle's theory.
I think that's a bad theory, but he can run with it as long as he wants.
Yeah. He can run with it right up until the end of that game. In which case, once he sees the end, I think he might have a change of heart.
Yeah.
No spoilers or anything.
So my concern was from, which I guess we won't find out till either get spoiled for everybody or till you beat the game, because you're going to definitely beat it before I get my hands on it. But my concern was it looked like Prime might have returned, which means all the Metroids aren't dead. Because it originally thought that Samus killed the Prime Metroid, which was the Dark Samus. But based on things going on here, there was a thought, especially because Prime 4, like, why are they still going to call it Metroid Prime 4 if Metroid Prime is dead, right? But there's still going to be a Metroid Prime 4. Prime might be alive, for all we know, because there's a lot of things that keep coming back. I mean, Ridley keeps coming back every fucking game.
Kraid's been back 3 times.
Yeah.
Or been killed 3 times now.
So if Dark Samus is still alive, that is Metroid Prime. That means there's still a Metroid around that isn't just the DNA that's inside Samus.
Dark Samus is the Metroid Prime?
Yeah. It's an energy construct thing.
Well, what makes you think? I haven't seen that in the game.
There was just hints from the trailers and stuff like that. Like, Dark Samus may not actually be in the game, but there could be background hints that lead to, like, why is Metroid Prime 4 still being made?
Yeah.
Because Metroid Prime 4, if I recall, doesn't take place in the same gap, at least from what they were saying, isn't in the same gap of time that all the other Metroid Primes take place in. It's a later game.
Now, in the beginning intro of the game, they do show the SAX as a flashback. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but I don't know. I'm not all that familiar with the Prime games, so I'm not sure what references they may be making. But they do have the weren't there in the Prime series? I don't know which one. There were like little mother brain type computers.
Yeah, like 2.
That you had to kill that had like an eyeball.
Yeah.
Because those are the computer cores that you're having to kill in this one in order to get the Omega Cannon. They're like giant floating brains with armor and an eyeball. So, I don't know if those are... It seems like this mother brain technology just seems to be the thing that everybody uses.
Have you come across the Rogue Chozo yet?
He shows up at the very beginning. But other than that, no.
Okay. So only the initial sequence. You haven't actually ran into him.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I encourage people to go watch the beginning of my stream because I played it from the very beginning. But yeah, essentially, Samus encounters him, her, it at the very beginning, and then there's a time jump where she seems to have amnesia and not know what happens, and suddenly she's in the depths, the bowels of the planet with no explanation. So, well, actually, there's an explanation as to how she got there, because you start the game by taking an elevator all the way down to the bottom, but then like stuff happens and you don't see what happens, and then she's like all depowered and unconscious at the beginning. So that's that. They explain it with Adam, the computer, calls it physical amnesia. So, okay.
Physical amnesia. Well, technically, amnesia is a physical thing. Your brain is an organ.
But the rest of your body has forgotten how to use itself, I guess. I don't know.
Somehow it wiped out all your muscle memory. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm starting to believe Eagle's clone thing, because like a clone would not have your muscle memory.
Yeah. Could be a clone.
Yeah.
Yet another clone. Yeah, I don't know. How does things like the charge beam, is that some sort of additional machinery in her gun? Or is it like a muscle?
From what I imagine, for like just going off of how the games have worked, I assumed that her cannon had a restrictor that was in it. And she was able to modify it, and that's why it's an upgrade, to pull the restrictor plate off temporarily to charge it up, which is dangerous because, she could kind of just blow the cannon up if she wasn't careful. And that's why she leaves the restrictor plate on most time. That's just how it works in my head, because that's how it could work as a functioning machine. I don't know how they intend for it to work.
Yeah. Well, apparently she forgets how to do that until you find a little ball that reminds you. A little ball held by a Chozo statue that reminds you how to use the charge beam. It's a better explanation than Other M, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, nothing was good in Other M.
Yeah, Other M, where it was like, oh yeah, you could do pretty much anything, but we're just going to say that you can't. We just decided that you can't do anything. And we'll let you know when you can add more abilities.
I wasn't Samus, I'll tell you that for sure, but whoever that character was a horribly written character too.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. So in Other M, which is sort of a prequel, you learn about Adam Malkovich, her CO, and all their relationship or whatever.
Makes
and he dies.
Adam.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, he dies at the end of Other M. In Fusion, the way that the computer on her new ship speaks to her reminds her of her CO. So she calls it Adam.
Yeah.
And she still has the same ship in Dread, but it's beyond just reminding her. It actually has the same way of speaking to her. And so I'm wondering, like, did they actually program it with his personality, or did she reprogram it so that it
I
has
don't
more
know.
of his personality?
Because
I guess-
while the events of Other M aren't canon, in the lore for a long time, the death of her CO was something like long before they decided to cover that with Other M.
Yeah.
So like that is still a thing that happened. So that fusion still makes sense in that case.
Yeah. It takes it a bit farther because I don't think in Fusion, I don't think that yeah, exactly. I don't think that the computer ever calls her lady,
Yeah.
but immediately in Dread it does. It says the exact words, any objections, lady. And I'm like, did she program that in? So it sounds even more like Adam.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I don't like the computer voice. It's too computery.
How do you like Samus?
Okay. That's a good question. It's funny because I do have a little. It's not a complaint again. It's different. She's different from Samus Returns. I found the design in Samus Returns to be very feminine. She had very long legs, and the way she walked was very feminine, especially when she's walking in and out of a save device, save room, or whatever you call it. It's just kind of interesting. Like I've watched, as I've played Samus Returns a million times, and the way she walks, like when she's going into the background and coming back out, it's a very feminine walk. They completely changed it. Her legs are shorter, and the way she walks, she reminds me, it's the weirdest thing, she reminds me of Flit Amaranth's Goblin Girls. She looks more like a short stack than the very tall, live Samus from Samus Returns.
Yeah, so Samus has always had long legs. That's for sure. Like if you look at the old sprites and stuff, I would never say that Samus's movements in previous games, except for in Zero Mission when she's in the Zero suit, I would never say that they actually looked feminine. I can see what you mean in Return specifically, though. But that's because Samus was never a very feminine character on the job, right? She's a soldier that's a mercenary. She gets hired to do her job. She's definitely very feminine when she's off the job, as you see in like end game scenes and stuff like that, depending on how fast your timer is. Zero Mission specifically, you can actually see her in that now patented tankini outfit that looks like a swimsuit, with her at the bar with like aliens and stuff like that. But like she's always been kind of a masculine character when she's in the suit, so that part I don't mind. But yeah, she's supposed to have long legs.
Yeah, I guess she does. It's interesting. I guess maybe she's been working on her thighs because her thighs look a little bit thicker than in Samus Returns. Anyway, it's not a complaint. It's just an interesting observation. It's just the way the character is built in this game. It makes her look shorter. Maybe she's just stockier or something. Yeah. But she looks like one of Flit's Goblin Girls, like a short stack. It's just kind of funny. And the way she kind of hops in and hops out.
In Japan, they always knew that Samus was a girl because the manual says so. Like, so as soon as you read the manual and stuff, it uses the like feminine conjugation for every word referring to Samus, being the fact that Japanese is a gendered language. But in America, most people didn't find out until some people finished the game fast enough for the helmet reveal, or even faster for the whole swimsuit ending. Because the game manual in America, I guess the people translating it didn't know, or whatever, like Nintendo America didn't know so much, but they use he a lot in the manual.
Yeah, I know. Thought that was funny. Yeah, I don't know if I have a side-by-side comparison, but I bet you if you look at the Samus Return Samus and this one, you'll notice there's some interesting differences. And it's just an artistic choice. There's nothing bad or wrong about either one. They're both great. I like the color scheme. The blue, of course, when you get the Variosuit, it changes.
Yeah. Well, this is okay. So I always complain about red, white, and blue as a color scheme in general, but this one works. The big reason this works is because I love America, but the red and the blue in a flag are the exact same like tone and like shade and everything. The only thing that's different is the hue. Like the same value, same tone, all that, but it's a hue change. So it's like there's almost like a crimson, it's like a wine red, and like this deep royal like navy blue. And that's also what a lot of people use when they go red, white, and blue, and it clashes outside of like patriotism. This works because the red, everything's shiny, but the red is a much deeper tone than this kind of like cyan blue that's going. And then the white is kind of like this off-white metal texture to offset it. This actually blends really well.
See your feet. Yeah, I love the cyan. I love that color blue. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's not even quite cyan. It's like a robin's egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or shiny sky blue kind of. I don't know.
Similar to the shirt you're wearing, but shinier.
Yeah. It all works great. I love your outfit, Samus. And the white is beautiful too. It's just nice.
The only thing that doesn't quite work with it is the glowing green on the parts, but that's fine.
Yeah.
If it was the same yellow on the cannon, it would work better.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the yellow looks better, especially against the white. But yeah, but don't get too used to it.
Yeah, obviously it's gonna change. Well, talk about a good pattern. The Varia suit has one of the best color palettes because it's all warm colors. It's like this deep like burgundy red, this kind of like mid orange accented by some yellow, and then all of it's offset by a green that's the exact opposite of the deep burgundy red. So like that's a really good palette. It's one of the reasons why Samus has such an iconic look, because everybody recognizes the palette of the sprite before they even recognize the imagery of the suit itself. Yeah,
the orange suit in particular. And what's interesting is she starts the game with the orange suit. So I guess this is the depowered suit.
Yeah.
But you don't like the purple gravity suit?
I never cared for the gravity suit, to be honest. Fusion suit's fine. It's weak, but it's fine. It's like it's not bad, it's not good. It's just like an okay design. But I never really cared for the gravity suit's design.
Yeah.
Varia's where it's at.
Well,
I'm not even much of an orange guy. But like the whole color palette and just like the design of the suit just works together.
Yeah. Trying to think of what else to say about it. Yeah, the parts where you have to aim. Basically, the Emmy, at least the Emmy fights that I've done so far, has just been about aim. You just have to aim at just the right spot, and that's a little bit difficult sometimes. You have to sit there and just like, you're trying to get the damn reticle to be, it's really just up and down.
I fucking hate having to aim in 2D games. Like, fuck that. Every single...
Well, it becomes 3D. I mean, it basically becomes an over-the-shoulder. It's kind of like Other M, where it reverts to almost like a first-person view. And you just have to aim up and down to exactly the right point and just hold it. Yeah. It becomes like an over-the-shoulder view. But then if you don't do it fast enough, because it's coming towards you, and if you don't get the right spot for the right amount of time, you got to run and try and do it again somewhere else, you know. So it's funny because part of the challenge in those parts is like trying to find a long enough straightaway where you can start shooting at it and slow it down long enough so that you can get the thing to be destroyed before it gets to you. So there's some interesting little challenges.
See, I love aiming in first person though. First person aiming is great,
Well,
which is why I like all of the Metroid Prime games.
Yeah. But you might like that part then.
Maybe.
Although it's just a little bit difficult with the stick because for some reason when it goes to that, it kept going up, and I was like, it was trying to get in the middle, and it would just like go zooming up to the top and then down. It's like, dang it, trying to aim right in the middle. But it's got some interesting. The environmental aspects of it are unbelievable, just outstanding. There's areas where you have to cool off. Like, I don't think this was in any of the previous ones. There's hot areas, and there's normal areas, and there's cold areas. And in this one, sometimes you have to try and find a way to cool off the hot areas before you get the various suits, so you can go into there. And then there's another area where you're in a normal area, and it's becoming hot. It's heating up, and you have to keep ahead of the heat. It's like, it's almost like the scenes where like lava is rising, except it's not lava. It's just the air is heating up, and it's following you, and you have to jump and try and get.
I have always liked the sequences where you have to outpace the lava, so that's not bad.
Yeah. So that was a cool sequence, I thought. It's a little bit more difficult, and I think this is good. They've hidden, like in the previous ones, it was very, like everything was very blocky, and so, it was a little bit easier to see where you could bomb or you could shoot or whatever and break a wall. In this one, everything looks so organic that it's sometimes difficult to realize, oh, I could shoot that wall, and it breaks apart and you can get through. Oh, and here's another interesting thing. I'm going to keep thinking of things. So the new move, sliding under a wall, there's an interesting side effect that gives you, or that gave the developers, is that since you can do that, there was very little reason at the beginning to give you the morph ball.
Yeah.
And so, unlike all of the previous ones, you don't get the morph ball for a long time. Like, you don't have it. And it's an interesting handicap that they give you, because, they're like, well, you can still have places where you can just slide under them, you just can't get into those little tubes. So, I thought that was interesting.
I was trying to find a direct quote, and I couldn't find it. But I believe it was from, like, Spy Kids 3D. And they were standing over a pit of lava. It's like, oh, I hate it when there's lava in video games. And somebody brought up Metroid. He's like, there wasn't actually lava in the original Metroid. It was molten magma, which was funny at the time, but that's like the most pedantic thing that you can say in a movie. It's like, dude, all magma is lava that hasn't breached the surface of the ground yet.
Yeah.
Like.
And I actually forgot until I recently played it through that in Super Metroid there's like superheated magma.
Yeah.
That even the gravity suit can't withstand. In the Ridley area, of course. But I will be interested to see if... Now, Ridley in Fusion got destroyed by the X, right?
Yeah.
And it was frozen, and they basically...
Ridley.
What's that?
Yeah, I said, yeah, but it's Ridley.
Yeah, so I'm wondering... I mean, he's been in every single one, right? So, well, except for Return of Samus. He was not in that. But they brought him in for Samus Return.
Because he should have been in it.
Yeah.
Freaking,
Is this a Federation?
I mean, to be fair, Ridley's supposed to be like Samus's PTSD constantly coming back at her. Which is like... I didn't have a problem with the idea of playing with the idea that Samus has some type of PTSD and other M. It's how they played with it and how horribly they wrote her character. Because she wouldn't be like sobbing or anything. She'd be having like a psychotic break, if anything else. But it makes sense because Ridley died before the events of the very first game that Samus sees him in, because she already killed him. And then he's back. You should have some type of psychotic break, because it's like, I killed you, motherfucker. Why are you here? You killed my parents.
Yeah.
I killed you. We were square.
Yeah. He keeps coming back.
Yeah.
To answer Eagle's question, Eagle says, "Is this a Federation facility?" He doesn't trust the Federation.
Yeah.
Probably for good reason.
I
But it is ambiguous. They imply at the beginning that it's not. That is a mystery world where nobody knows anything about it, and they received a signal, and they didn't expect this world to have anything, but yet it's got all these facilities. So, but as I've gotten through various aspects, like Adam has noticed that it seems very Federation-like in various ways. So maybe we don't know yet.
Yeah, dude. Well, especially after the Prime trilogy, I wouldn't trust the Federation at all. I don't think Samus does, but I don't think she cares either. She just, keeps taking jobs from them because she is a contractor, and it's work, and she's a professional. But especially after the Prime trilogy, I don't think Samus actually trusts the Federation, and also why she doesn't go out with teams of people. She does everything on her own.
Yeah, and there was a part at the beginning where Adam's complaining that her bounty for this mission is not very good.
Yeah.
And he kind of wonders, why did you take this mission? And she doesn't answer. But I assume it's because there's X involved, that it's personal or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Or it might have something to do with that Chozo, too.
With the what?
With the
Chozo?
Yeah.
I guess, but I don't know that she knew that was going to be there. Because all they knew was, at least, unless they're not telling us something, but at the moment, all I knew is they got some mysterious broadcast or mysterious radio signal where it showed a picture or a video of an X parasite.
Clones do need money, Eagle. Listen, their clones are still alive, and no matter where you are in space, life is expensive.
That's right.
I mean, you still need to buy replacement parts for your spaceships.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the Federation gave her this purple spaceship, right?
Yeah.
I missed the orange one.
I do too. The one that kind of just it matched the Varia suit. It was a really nice design.
Yeah. Yeah, this one matches the gravity suit, I guess.
Ugh.
Purple. Does have some good moves, though. She does some spinny things at the beginning.
Great in the Prime trilogy is that she only has her old spaceship the whole time. And you get to see this really nice 3D model of it in cinematics and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, the opening cinematics are pretty good, but then you don't get to see it or really much of anything. That's because all of a sudden she's in the bowels of this. Here's another interesting thing, which you'll get to see more of as I play through it, because I've already gotten to a few other areas. The modes of transportation between the areas is very impressive. This is not just she gets in an elevator and goes.
Yeah, it's not just elevators. Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's an elevator. There's an interesting new transporter. There's a shuttle at some point that she gets on. It's like a train shuttle, where she gets on and it goes sideways.
I think they were taking notes from other Metroidvania games, because a lot of the stuff that you were talking about, how there's these one-way loop arounds and stuff. These things have become very common in the genre since Samus has been on quite a hiatus. So Hollow Knight has a bunch of different transportation modes between areas. Bloodstained has a bunch of different transportation modes between areas. These are all just standard practice in the genre now. If Samus is going to get a new game after 19 years, we better make sure that she's in line with the genre that she helped make.
Yeah, and a reviewer I watched, I guess it was a YouTube reviewer that I watched, made a good point that and they weren't talking specifically about you, but despite the fact that I know you don't particularly like Mercury Steam, the point the person was making was that having an outside team like that's already sort of proven their mettle with the Samus Returns, now they're kind of given probably a much bigger budget. They've got a modern, as much as Nintendo gets to, a modern system that has more power, and they can just do more, and it kind of allows them to experiment and bring in new ideas that maybe a strictly Nintendo team might not have thought of.
Listen. I am perfectly happy for Mercury Steam to prove me wrong. They don't have a huge expansive list of games that they've made before. It's just the few that they have just been they're a red flag. But if they do a good job, we can yank that red flag out. Linear time. It's well, they did bad jobs, but now they did a good one. It'll give me more faith for things they do in the future.
Yeah. I like Eagle's mistyping of Chozo as Chico. It's a Federation facility, and Chico is there to destroy it.
That's going to be our name for him now until we find out what his actual name is.
Yeah, Chico the Chozo. I don't know what happened. What's the deal? I mean, obviously, I've not gotten to the explanation of the Chozo.
But you might soon.
Maybe.
Who knows, right?
He just attacks her out of the blue for no particular reason. Plus, what's the deal with the Emmys? I mean, they've apparently been reprogrammed to.
And you're thinking wait, but I thought Samus were friends from the Chozo. That's where she got her suit from and everything.
Yeah. We don't even know if it's really, because it looks like he's got some kind of biomechanical suit on.
He could be an android for all we know.
Yeah, he could be Ridley. We don't know.
He could be freaking Metroid Prime for all we know.
Yeah. I have no idea. Or it could just be robotic.
Yeah.
But
we'll find out eventually.
We'll find out. Yeah. But so I only played for an hour and a half before this, on stream. But in the next hour and a half, I should be able to get, at least based on my first playthrough, or my first 3 hours just by myself, I should be able to get to Kraid in the next hour and a half. So people will get to see me die a few more times, I guess. If I can remember. Excuse me. What's funny is, as you play through these, you get more and more powerful, and then if you start over from the beginning, it's I'm not used to this crappy beam.
Let's take Eagle's idea, but let's actually try to make more sense out of it. What if the Emmys detect Metroid DNA and are attacking Samus because of that?
Could be. Or X.
Yeah.
X DNA is in her too. Or is it? Yeah. No, it's not.
No, the Metroid was put in there as the immune system to get rid of the X parasite.
Yeah, to eliminate it.
Yeah.
Unless, as Eagle suggests, she actually is an X parasite. But then wouldn't the Metroid DNA kill her?
Yeah, it would.
I don't think that works.
The only reason the X parasite was able to flourish is because all the Metroids were basically gone, which were the natural predators for the X.
Mm-hmm. But it could be. Chozo could see her as an abomination due to the Metroid DNA.
Which they were natural enemies.
Well, no, the Chozo created the Metroids.
Yes.
Well,
yes, they did. And then it backfired on them.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Eagle says X-parasite hybrid formed from the 3 DNAs. I don't think that's how it works. But
I don't either.
You can hold on to that theory, I suppose. Who are we to tell you what to think?
Yeah, basically, the Metroids were the Frankenstein's monster. And frickin' the Chozos were Dr. Frankenstein in that case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except instead of fire, they fear cold.
Which, oddly enough, is how Dr. Frankenstein met his end.
Yeah, in the Arctic, right?
Yeah. They actually just barely pulled him out of the sea before he froze to death. He still ended up dying, though.
Yeah, I think I saw Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the movie. I believe that's how they ended it.
Yeah, because like the whole time after they pulled him out, that's how you find the story, because they pulled him out of the sea. Like he was on his little boat or whatever. He was like hunting down the creature, and then he starts telling you the whole story, assuming you're one of like the people on the ship or the captain or whatever. And he tells you the story, and that's where it rewinds, and then things are told out of place, and then you're starting wondering, how did you know the parts you weren't there for?
Yeah. That's supposed to ask those kinds of questions.
Yeah. And there's the explanation, well, the creature told me. It's like, yeah, okay, like, I get it. The creature might have told you about his parts, but that means you guys sat there and had a long, uninterrupted conversation while he was threatening your life because you realized guns didn't work on him. And then he just told you that, like, I don't know, like, it happened, but I don't really believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe he just made those parts up. I don't know.
Maybe. It's just to make sense of it. I love it. It's like this guy comes like running and is described like, people don't understand. Frankenstein's monster was basically the fucking Ubermensch, right? Like he's like running along the mountainside at like a train he's described, like a locomotive. So he's not even climbing the mountain. He's like running up and down it. And then when he actually gets in and like confronts Victor, he just like blows the freaking door down with his strength. Victor tries to shoot him and it didn't take. Like the bullet just bounces off of him. And it's like, okay, I get it, because lightning is probably the most powerful thing that people could imagine at the time. So anything that was powered by lightning should be like Superman before Superman was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Eagle says, and the Federation is young Frankenstein. Okay.
Well, they do keep trying to use like the eyeball brain box things. Like they keep trying to